them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Mark
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Got another great guest lined up. Mike Zeisberger of NHL.com will be joining us. Mike is one of the good guys in our biz. Been around for a while, and he does a great job based in Toronto, covering mostly the Leafs, but also the NHL. And right now he is busy covering the Western Conference Final between the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars, and we will get to that later on. But Pierre, let's look right back at last night. I mean, pretty much what we said, like we said the New York Rangers had to come out and play a certain type of hockey to succeed. They did that in the first period, but as it went on, it was almost, Pierre, I just said it to my friend Ian Cameron on another podcast I was just on. When you watch Florida break a team down and just kind of pound them and wear them down, it's almost just like that slow train wreck that you can't get in the way of, and because it does. It's not fast. It gradually happens. And you could see, and I remember you texting me at the end of the first period saying they're lucky to be where they are right now, because you could already see it. At the end of that first period, you could see Florida starting to do what they do best, and that is pressuring you on that forecheck and just being relentless and making you think twice.
I think New York Rangers are hurt. I asked Molly Walker that yesterday. I think there are a lot of players on that roster that are hurt now. Some of that may have come from a very arduous series with Carolina. Definitely, I think in the first round, Adam Fox got hurt with a knee-on-knee with Nick Jensen. And he hasn't been the same player since. And you could see that last night on the first goal scored by the Florida Panthers, where Gustav Forsling goes right by Lafreniere, goes right by Fox, and there's nobody there to stop him. It's unbelievable. So I think they're hurt. I don't think they're deep enough. I don't think their depth players, especially with VC being out of the lineup, can keep up with Florida Panthers depth players. And I don't see how this has a good ending for the New York Rangers. I could be wrong. They could win tomorrow night in South Florida, but I don't see how this has a good ending for the Rangers.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Pierre, right? Like we said that one of the other things that was going on in this series were the big guys from Florida, the big stars were playing, were showing up, and the Rangers stars weren't. The Rangers stars showed up, and they still lost. And
some of them. I mean,
I thought the
quantified show up.
Yeah.
Trocheck didn't have a good game last night.
No. I thought Kreider did.
Lafreniere didn't have a good game last night.
No.
He's been their most important player. Kreider got on the scoreboard. Zibanejad got on the scoreboard. Panarin got on – I was going to call him Pasternak. Panarin got on the scoreboard. Filipino goes in the lineup. Did you even know he played? Matt Rempe played less than 3 minutes in the game.
Yeah.
I just – they're not right. The Rangers are injured. And
I know.
I get it. They're not – to their credit, they're not going to use it as an excuse. But I'm going to credit the Florida Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing the way you need to play at this time of the year, and the Rangers don't have enough artillery to keep up with the Florida Panthers right now.
Pierre, like sometimes we say hockey, it's a simple game. It can be simple. And if you're keeping it simple, you're usually doing it right. And I look at the Florida Panthers and how good they are at not letting any potential shift of momentum in the game, one way or the other, get them too high or too low. They do a great job of staying even keeled and also sticking within their game plan despite what the other team is doing. Like, can you name a time, in your head right now, off the top of your head in this playoff run, can you think of a time where a team knocked them off kilter and really made them veer away from their game plan? I can't. I feel like they better than any team in the playoffs right now. One
game in the Tampa series in Tampa where they kind of fell off a little bit. That's the only time, but it wasn't terrible. They lost the game, but it wasn't, like they were brutal. It just Tampa was really good. So that's one. And then I can think of one time in the Bruins series where it got a little wild and they lost game one and they didn't play particularly well. And that would be it. So, that's a lot of really good games. And again, they play a certain way. You know what? I told Mitch Melnick, told Mitch 3.5 months ago, these guys are dangerous.
Yeah.
They play a different way. and nobody's talking. And this is, again, I don't blame anybody because there's 32 teams in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Not everybody can watch every team play. I totally understand that. But this is why we got to be careful who's really an expert and who's not an expert. Because we got a lot of people that are claiming to be experts that I know didn't watch 1040 games the whole year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
let's just tamp the brakes on some of this.
I'm with you.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And I remember telling Melnick, and you and I talked about it 3.5 months before the playoffs started, every game, and I used the term, every game these guys play is a street fight. And that's setting them up for the playoffs. And they're dangerous.
Yeah.
They're dangerous because of that. And they are. They're a dangerous team.
And it's rare we see that, right, Pierre? I mean, you've seen teams that coast isn't the word. What's a good word to say? Moderate themselves, moderate their energy throughout the year. It's really hard to do what you just said on a game-to-game basis over the course of 82 games, but they're able to do it. And I think that goes back to what I'm saying is they buy into their system and they don't get rattled. That's what I love about them. They just
I agree. I think that's such a good statement from you, Jimmy. In basketball, they call it load management. Okay, we don't have that. Well, we maybe do, but not really. We don't call it that. Yet we're getting to be a really good league with
creeping into the game. It's creeping in.
We're getting to be a league that's starting to come up with newfangled ideas, whereas these ideas have always been there, but we just use different terms for them. Anyways, that being said, I remember watching them play Anaheim. I remember watching them play San Jose. I remember them watching play innocuous games against Western Conference teams where their position was already solidified, talking about Florida. Those Western teams were out of them, especially Anaheim and San Jose. And it didn't matter to Florida. They still made it a street fight. And that's just how they play. That's just how they play. I give them a lot of credit. They're going to – I do believe they'll get past the Rangers. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will be the first person to say, I got it wrong. But the way they're playing right now and going back home and with the Rangers nicked up the way they are, I think that's a big ask for the Rangers, a huge ask.
It really is, Pierre. Well, we're going to get into the other series in a bit when we bring Zeiss on. But just bouncing around quickly, some items in the NHL, doing a little housekeeping here, Pierre. A lot of players now. We're going to just, people should keep an eye out. A lot of prospects that teams haven't signed. This is the last day they can sign them. Anything that you've seen that surprised you, Pierre, that where teams decide not to move on?
No, not really. No, I think what's going to be surprising, I think the potential for a lot of really good American League players, and I mean really good American League players who have been depth players for a long time in respective situations. I can see kind of them moving out and moving over to Europe, whether it's a KHL, whether it's Switzerland, whether it's Sweden, whether it's Finland, whether it's the DEL in Germany. I think we're getting close to that now just from having talked to a few people and some of the people that I trained. So I think we're getting to that more than we are about, okay, they didn't sign this junior player, so that's a travesty. No, it's not. There's a reason why that junior player wasn't signed. They just feel in-house they have better prospects. That's all.
Right.
It's not anything. It's not saying that kid's a bad player. It's just if you see a guy that was drafted, especially a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick, not signed, he probably didn't elevate enough, but they're probably also players within the organization that are better.
Depth.
I think the next big thing to watch for are some big name American League players who are on AHL contracts leaving the AHL and going overseas.
So, Pierre, is that just because, like the NHL has in the last 10 to 15 years, the AHL is getting younger and younger too? Yeah. Wow.
And cheaper and cheaper. I mean, listen, I don't fault the American League players at all. The guys that can make $500,000 to $750,000 playing in the American Hockey League, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I don't begrudge those guys at all for doing that. But I think teams are saying, okay, we're going to go younger. We'll have one of those players. We're not going to have 3 of them.
Gotcha.
And I think that's going to be the next big thing to try to watch for as we go forward here. I'm not saying it's going to happen in every city, but I think it's going to happen in some places.
All right. Interesting stuff. I'll keep an eye on that. And then the other thing, Pierre, I don't know if you heard about it. I didn't read the story. I saw some snippets. Everyone's talking about it right now, and I know someone just mentioned in the comment section. A not so favorable article came out about Mike Babcock, and it just, to me, it just seemed like a complete hit job here. And I hate, as a media member, I hate when stories like this come out, and the timing of it's weird. I don't get it.
Who wrote it?
I'll tell you right now, because I saw like a piece in Yahoo was talking about it, but it's in The Athletic. I'll tell you the writer now. Dan Robson and Katie Strang wrote it. And it's just, it's not nothing good about him. I'll tell you that. And I just, you're getting one side of everything there. And that's what I don't like. You're not getting his side. You're not getting other people who might have enjoyed playing for him or found it valuable to play under him. It seems like they didn't interview both sides of the coin there.
I didn't read this story.
Yeah. So we'll read it this weekend and get back to me.
Yeah. No, I appreciate bringing it up. I don't know. Look, I've known Mike a long time. Every dealing I've had with Mike, except for one, has been excellent. And, when you're talking hundreds, not a couple meetings, hundreds of meetings, all of them were great. I remember one time he was mad at something he thought I had said about him and his team, which I told him wasn't true. He had heard it on the grapevine. We went at it pretty good in his office down in Dallas in the visitors' dressing room.
Hey,
we did.
It happened.
And
I've been there, Pierre.
If you can prove to me that I said that about your team, then show me the tape or play the tape.
Yep.
I said, and I'm telling you it didn't happen. And he said, well, I got it from – I said, who's your source? And he wouldn't tell me. I said, Mike, I'm not listening to you on this.
Yeah.
It's not true. And then it all smoothed out. But if it was true, I would have said, yep, I did say that.
Yeah.
Like I told you the story. When I
was just going to say.
In Dallas.
Yeah.
And Mike was great. He goes, I'm not mad at you. I deserve it. I was bad tonight.
Yeah.
I played poorly.
Yep.
So, but at some point, there's got to be an overkill mechanism on this, right? Is there not a statute of limitations on this? I mean, I don't think he physically assaulted anybody. Was that in an article? Was that in there? No. I don't think he used racist slurs against anybody. I never heard that about Mike, and I don't know him to be that way. So I don't know, unless it's, yelling at players, or which back in those days happened.
Right.
I don't know what's in the article, but
here's my thing. From what I know of everything, I don't agree with a lot of things that he did, but I wasn't there. So I wasn't in the situation, so I don't know his reasoning. I just base on what I read. But I will say this. I think he was a great coach. I never had an issue with him. But what I don't like in our field, Pierre, is when people pile on. We see it so much on social media. You're lucky not to be on there, but it happens all the time. And it's just like you just said, there has to be an overkill limit. All right? We get it. He messed up. He was a jerk to some people. We get it. Nobody's arguing that. Let's move on. And this just seemed very strategic to me, which makes me wonder, did they get a sense that maybe he's in the running for a job somewhere, and so they wanted to prevent that from happening? But
I don't know. I can't speculate. I can't speculate on that, but I understand.
It's just out of nowhere. I mean, it's just we haven't heard his name in a while, and then all of a sudden
we're in the middle of an unbelievable Eastern and Western Conference final. There's some amazing storylines.
Focus on that.
The Jimmy Nill, Kenny Holland storyline is phenomenal.
Great.
Edmonton versus Dallas. The Darnell Nurse stuff that happened the other day, and then the game that he plays in Game 4 was unbelievable.
Yep.
All these different storylines. You look at the Ranger, Florida, the Bobrovsky versus Shesterkin. There's so many storylines that people could write unbelievable stories about. But I'm not going to say who, but I asked them today because I brought it up to you, and I don't think that tape's been out there anywhere, about the Edmonton press conference the other day. I have no problem with the media there that they asked questions because the players were presented.
Yep.
I had a problem with what Edmonton's management did. It's coming.
Threw him to the wolves.
Why would you do that? Just put your coaches up there and do scrums for the players, and just do a podium for your coach.
Yeah.
Why would you put the play and your starting goalie
on a game day too? It wasn't even like there's a practice.
So this person that I asked a longtime NHL person. He said, I heard you say that to Jimmy. He says, I couldn't believe it. I was in shock.
The goalie thing, to me, I can't get over it. I've never,
really
ever seen a
surprised.
goalie on a.
So, I know there's been a big, he said, she said on amongst media people, well, you shouldn't have done that, or he shouldn't have done this, or whatever. That's all right. I don't care. I don't blame the media on this. Like, they have a job to do.
Oh, I heard you, Pierre, on other shows. You said, hey, they were tough, but they were fair.
Yeah.
And you presented that platform to them, not them. They didn't take that platform themselves. Yeah. That was handed to them by the Edmonton PR staff.
Yeah, I'm still surprised by it. But all that being said, be mad at the media all you want. I don't think they did anything wrong. They're just asking questions. It's their job. That's their job. Yeah. The hit on the other side of it, you called it the hit piece. I haven't read it, so I can't describe what it is or isn't. But I would say that Mike is not relevant in these playoffs, and Mike hasn't been relevant in the NHL since he got fired by Toronto. So that's a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, the Columbus thing.
But he didn't coach a game.
Yeah, he didn't coach a game. You're right.
He didn't coach a game. I mean,
but he was in the storylines.
It is a story. I would agree. Yeah. But that was, what was he there? 6 weeks?
I know. And that was, we're going on almost a year here. So
like, it's not.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand the timing of it. I don't like, honestly, I don't care. That's the story too, that honestly, Pierre, usually an editor would tell you, right? Like, because you got to time things right. And you know that after July, let's say July 5th, all right, the sort of after effects of the free agents frenzy, you get into that 5th, 6th, 7th, maybe up until July 10th, you're still pounding free agent stuff. But as an editor, I'm telling my writers, if you've got feature ideas or features lined up, save them for when it slows down. Save it for when nobody's talking about hockey and there's nothing to talk about, and you have a good feature to put up, and you can make our publication relevant at a time when it's dead in the hockey world. So that's another thing I don't understand. I'm just looking at it as an editor or journalist's point of view. Timing's horrendous.
Jimmy, I just have one question for you, because again, I didn't read it. Were the quotes anonymous, or were there names on the quotes?
I'm gonna tell you right. No. They're all anonymous.
Anonymous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that, I mean, I'm sure they're legit, because I know Katie does thorough research.
Yeah.
I don't know the other gentleman that wrote that. I don't
either.
I may have met him along the way, but I don't know his work, and I apologize for that. But Katie's thorough. She does her research. I don't think she.
Well, there are some names people are saying in the comment section. Frankie Corrado's in there.
Okay.
So let's read it. I haven't read the whole thing, like I said, Pierre. We'll check it out over the weekend. We'll get back to it. But listen, I think we got our guest now. We do. We got him for video. I want to see his beautiful face. Unfortunately, I guess we can't. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm driving right now.
Okay, good.
I'm in the Edmonton area right now. I stayed home for between games 4 and 6, which, given all the pain and the the travel was for my colleagues to get to Dallas yesterday, I'm kind of glad that they left me behind. But no, I'm just on my way. I'm going up to visit Craig Berube's hometown.
Cool.
A bunch of Leaf fans in oil country now. So that's why you don't get to see my homely mug on the television.
That's okay.
And,
it's great to hear your voice, buddy.
Speaking of homely mugs, great to see both of you.
Mike Zeisberger joining us here on the Eye Test, folks. And Mike, first of all, it was really great to see you back at the rink in the Toronto series after the health issues you've had. I'm really glad that you're doing much better, and the hockey world is a better world with you in it.
Well, I just and I don't want to get too emotional while I'm driving here, but it was incredible. I've been relatively healthy all my life, and things like this always happen to other people until they didn't. And Around just before Christmas time, I had some serious heart and kidney issues and was in ICU and was out of commission for 4 months, and at one point it was life-threatening. And I just got to say, guys, I mean, all my BS aside, to be very frank here and very candid, we're so lucky to work and be part of the hockey community, because I got to tell you, you're lying in ICU and you've got all these tubes sticking in you and you can hardly move. And the outpouring of support from coaches, from players, from general managers. I mean, obviously you're going to get them from your friends in everyday life, but the way I was so amazed and shocked how many people reached out. And when you're lying there, you get support like that. It really makes you want to fight even harder. And, I've heard for years, how they talk about, when you're growing up and you look at the NHL and it's something that you want to work in, you see it as this huge kind of, for some of us, pot at the end of the rainbow that we one day would like to work in. Mm-hmm. But, you've always heard people say what a small fraternity is, what a close family it is. And I learned that firsthand. And I was humbled and I was overwhelmed, and I'm really grateful for all the people that reached out. And I'll tell you, one other thing, I'm not one that can just sit around on my keister all the time. I found that out by rehab. So I'm so happy to be back in the arenas and that, guys, because I wondered if I ever would be. And man, I missed it. It is the greatest sport in the world.
Yeah, God bless. Well
all
said.
Right, Mike. So let's cut to the chase. Who's winning between Dallas and Edmonton in Game 5 down in Dallas?
Yeah, good luck. All right. Want me to tell you how they put the caramel inside the caramel bar too, Pierre? Or you want the square root of pi? I'll figure that out for you too. Like, how the hell do I know? I mean, and this is getting crazy. I mean, Wayne Gretzky was on TNT the other day and couldn't figure it out. Okay?
Yeah.
Now this is a guy. No, look at Wayne Gretzky never scored a freaking goal in his entire career. He'd still have the most points in NHL history. He's got more assists than anybody's got points. If this guy doesn't know what the hell's going on, how do I? And the bizarre thing about this, guys, is that just when you think it couldn't get any more loony, it does. And here's my example of that. So, you've got Game 3, where the Oilers take a 2-0 lead in the first period, and the ice is tilted. Connor McDavid, or Connor McJesus being McJesus. I mean, I had a scout come after the first period, and he goes, that kid should be playing a league higher. Oh, wait a minute. There is no higher league than this. That's how good he was. And then in the second period, they didn't get a shot for 12 and a half minutes. So that's how quick things turned around. Jekyll and Hyde from period to period. Then we go to Game 4. They don't even wait for periods, okay? Dallas scores in 58 seconds. Within 5.5 minutes, it's 2-0. And then all of a sudden in the second half of the period, it's like, whoop, the rink tilts the other way. And Edmonton is all over Dallas. So, you do see, and Pierre, you would know, especially from your days behind the bench, but it is a game of ebbs and flows. Now, I don't think it's the same. We don't see like runs like in basketball where a team can go on a 23-4 run or something like that. But this is about as close as I've seen. I mean, this is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, you got teams that could score 5 goals in 2 minutes, and then they can't get a shot in 15. So, I waved the white flag. Okay, I got no idea what's going to happen, but God, it's been great theater, hasn't it?
It has. Mike, what's been your take sort of on the roller coaster ride of Stuart Skinner and how he's handled the ups and downs? You talk about ebb and flow and ups and downs. He's had quite a few. What's been your take on him?
A couple of things. Number one, I mean, what did they say? When he's good, he's really good, and when he's bad, he's awful. But I will say this: his mental fortitude of bouncing back has been impressive to me. And look, at a lot of guys. I mean, I wrote flowery prose about Calvin Pickard in the Vancouver series, and I thought he came in and played well. But let's face it, if you're in the playoffs and being replaced by Calvin Pickard, that's a shot to the ego, okay? And that's no offense against Calvin Pickard, but just look at the journey that he's been on, and full credit to him. But the fact that Stuart Skinner bounced back, and I thought in the first two games in Dallas that he played relatively well. And game 3, I mean, I didn't like the winning goal by Robertson, but otherwise I didn't think he was that bad. The question then becomes, can you win a Stanley Cup with a guy whose save percentage is below .890? And you wouldn't think you could. But here's the Oilers with a goalie that's got a save percentage like that and have not scored a power play goal through the first 4 games, and they're even in this series. And that to me, I find incredible. And the other thing is, the players believe in Skinner. And even when he was taken out for those 2 games in Vancouver, you talk to some of the guys off the record, and they really think that this guy's got the mental fortitude to bounce back. He showed it before. I think people forget that this is a guy that actually stole in the first round, like one game from the Kings when they won 1-0.
Yeah.
The Kings were all over the Oilers, and it was so, I mean, it's unpredictable. He's about as unpredictable as this whole series is. I mean, you would think Ottinger would have the big advantage, but here we are, 2-2, guys. So, which you gonna get, good Stewie or bad Stewie? We'll find out tonight.
So you're driving to Calahoo, Alberta, the home of Craig Berube.
Yep.
Why is Craig Berube the right coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Well, first of all, Pierre, when we talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I suspect that you think the same thing. I mean, we can talk about coaches, and Sheldon Keefe, I mean, he that was his first coaching gig. I'm not sure that really, Toronto is the best place for somebody that's never coached in the NHL or even have been a general manager in the NHL. There are different pressures of a place like that, a place like Montreal. People that don't think that there is are putting their head in the sand. Mm-hmm. We saw, look at, Sheldon had a great regular season record, but this is a team that has won 1 playoff series in 20 years. So with Chief coming in, I like the accountability that he brings. Not saying that Sheldon didn't ask of that, but Chief is a more straight ahead type of guy. More importantly, I've noticed that they, back in the, 2009, 2010, 2011, there was that aura around the Leafs where even when they weren't good, that it was kind of like a country club atmosphere. Well, I got to be honest, guys. I think that that's been the way that it is in recent times. I mean, look you can't fault the organization. The organization's, is oozing with money. And because you can't spend that money on the cap, over the cap anymore, they do extra things for players and they coddle their players. Well, you know what? At some point, you're going to coddle guys. Show me results. Show me production. And so I think Chief's not a country club type of guy, anybody that knows that. And I think, all this East-West ice capades that the Leafs try to play during the regular season, Chief is a North-South type of guy. I covered 3 rounds of that 2019.
I covered one, I can tell you. Oof.
Yeah.
I covered 4.
Yeah. So you would know, Pierre. So we covered the last 3 together.
Yep.
And it was so easy and basic, even for a simpleton like me, to watch when the Blues were successful, they were playing north-south. The games that they lost, they would play east-west. Okay?
Yep.
But Chief has 12 forwards and 6 defensemen involved, to the point that you remember Pierre, like, he would start his 3rd or 4th line almost every game. It wasn't his top line.
No.
Okay?
Alexander Steen was up.
Tone.
Yeah, Alexander Steen was playing on the 4th line with Oscar Sundqvist.
Yeah.
And those guys started a lot of games.
Yeah.
They really did.
Yeah.
Mike's right about that. You're spot on, Mike. You're not wrong in that. You're right
And that's and my other thing is, we can talk about coaches all we want. And yes, the Leafs have some high-end talent. And it's funny, I was talking to an NHL, one of the other NHL coaches about this the other day. But, I've done a few of those, what they call baggy days, in my time with this Leafs team, where, the day where after they get eliminated and they're packing up. And I've heard the same thing so many times. We were close. Yeah, and I guess they're referring to all these game 7s that they play in. But you know what? What are you close to? Getting to the second round? Is that the bar? And I asked, I did ask Brad Treliving. I said, for an organization that's won one playoff series in 20 years, and your players are saying they're close, what are they close to? The second round? And is that how low the bar is now for this organization? He said, no, and that's not acceptable, and it's got to be higher. To me, I see the players hurt. I see the players upset. I see the players want to win. You know what I don't see? And this is what the coach, the coach that I was talking to was saying, and we both agree. What I don't see is anger. And that to me, guys, that right there to me should be disturbing, okay? Because let's take a couple of other elite players. And we know the Leafs have Nylander and Matthews, Marner. We can go down the list, okay? Remember a few years ago when Colorado got eliminated and Nathan McKinnon sits up there and says, I just wasted the last 10 months?
Yeah.
And then when he got eliminated by Dallas this time around, he says, that's unacceptable. We just lost, at home all the time. That's unacceptable. You watch Connor McDavid in game 1 of this series. He gets the double minor in overtime in Dallas in game 1, and you just see him stewing in the box. And then he's got a chance to drain it, and Ottinger makes that great save, this time holding his stick as opposed to the other night when his stick made the save. But
the immaculate stick, I called it.
Yeah, right? Hey, that puts new meaning to stick saving a beauty, doesn't it? but when you looked at him, he went into the dressing room after the first overtime, apologized to his team for not not ending this thing, and then what did he do? He went out and he ended it, and he was mad. He was pissed. And I just look at the Leafs' top players and I disagree with people that look at the narrative and say they don't really want to win. I do think that these guys want to win. Yeah. But there's a I think you need to be angry. I think you need to be pissed off. Pierre would know this better than anybody. Who gets more pissed off, Pierre, than Sidney Crosby when that puck drops?
Oh, yeah.
The only guy in the league I could think of right now, Michael, and you talked about it correctly, is Nathan McKinnon. Yeah. And guess what? They're best friends.
Yeah. And they work out together.
To Pierre's point.
You nailed it. We don't rehearse this show. Mike Zeisberger nailed that one. You nailed that.
And to Pierre's point, Okay, I was talking during the fall in September. I got to do a cool assignment where the Penguins went to play an exhibition game in Halifax, and Sid brought the whole team to Cole Harbor to practice. And I got to talk to the guy that runs the workouts in Halifax, because those guys are very loyal to where they're from. Okay, no matter how big they get, Sid goes home, Nate goes home, Brad Marchand goes home. Okay, they go home, they skate, they have skates against each other. So during the last 10 minutes of their skates, they play keep away. Okay, Nathan and Sid are never on the same team. They don't want to be. They don't allow themselves to be.
I love it.
And this guy says in those 10 minutes, if you wouldn't know better, you would think they are the worst enemies ever. When it ends, then they're the best of friends. But where do you think that Nathan McKinnon gets that competitive juice, that competitive? And look at Marchand too. I mean, he's a very obviously he's a very polarizing player, but nobody can ever question that he wears his heart on his sleeve. But and rumor has it there's a couple of times where they're out playing in that in those workouts in the summer, and Sid will look across during those heated scrimmages and just go, "Yeah, how come you guys only got one ring each?"
That's awesome.
You know what? I mean, I remember back in school, and it's one of the few things that I remember in the days of typewriters and abacus. But we learned this thing called environmental determinism, which is how your character and how you are and what you like is all dictated by the environment around you. Well, you don't think that Nate McKinnon is the way that he is because he's out there, and Sidney Crosby doesn't care how good of friends they are, because once that puck is dropped, you ain't my friend anymore. That's the type of thing that I don't see with the Leafs. And you know what? I'm not sure you can change the character of players to have that instilled in you. And that is something, that, look at, and to my point, to make a short story long, that the chief, Craig Berube, that he's got that instilled in him. Yeah. But do his players, and that's where Tree Living has to find, and they're not easy to find. Okay. I think you're seeing it right now. I mean, look at, you may hate the Tkachuk brothers, but you'll never question how pissed they get if things aren't going their way.
Look, the whole Florida Panthers team.
Yeah.
Pierre and I were just talking about it. I mean, they're just built for playoff hockey, Pierre,
hey, remember, Mike, the next time you talk to Brad Tree Living, can you ask him why he traded Matthew Tkachuk to Florida and Sam Bennett to Florida?
I was just going to bring that. I was just going to bring something about that up. Okay. Sam Bennett. Pierre, you remember all the kerfuffle that there was there because he couldn't do any chin-ups?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Where are those people now that called him soft?
What the hell does that have to do with how you play hockey?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? And it's funny because now, we look at, like, I'm a big NFL guy. So, but the combine's gone a little bit over the top, okay? And you look at some of the old-time football people and they go, well, that's great. A guy can play in shorts and a T-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that tell me about? And, I really think that all that stuff in Sam Bennett, that just built up and accrued the whole time, and
channeled it perfectly.
Kelly Hrudey, who is around the Flames a lot, he made the point on the broadcast last night that when Sam Bennett was in Calgary, there was a lot of self-doubt there because of all the BS that went around his drafting, and then You know, he had some hard times to endure. And in Florida, you know, they just said, go do what you do and, you know, keep doing it. And you're seeing a different guy. You're seeing a guy that is very confident. And, you know, it's fascinating because I was thinking about this the other day. If it's the Panthers and the Oilers in the final, well, here come two of Edmonton's public enemy number ones back into the building again from all those Battle of Albertas, like you guys said, Tkachuk and Bennett. So, you know, I'm not sure what happened with Bennett and Calgary, Pierre. I know that Tkachuk, you know, pretty much kind of forced his way out, but those guys have just flourished down there. And, you know, I would say to people that think that, oh, well, they go down to Florida, they have no taxes, and they just sit on the beach all day. Does it look like these guys sitting on the beach all day?
Oh, hey, Zeiss, how much is Brandon Montour going to get in unrestricted free agency? Because he won't be going back to Florida.
No, and this, you know what, Pierre? There's a few guys that fascinate me this year, especially on the back end. Toronto being one of the teams that's looking for defense help, but who doesn't really? Okay, but you know, how much is a guy like Zadorov going to get on the open market? How much is Montour going to get on the open market?
Yep.
And how good are these guys going to be when they don't have the supporting cast around them? I'm not saying that they're not going to be worth the money that they get, but we've seen this before, especially guys on the blue line.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, guys, where would you slot these guys from 1 to 6?
The one thing I'd say to you on Montour, if he goes to a team like Toronto that's got unbelievable offensive firepower up front, he's running that power play. He's going to get 70 points or more.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
I'd agree. But I know what you mean, Mike, when you're talking about, you know, and it's not to take away from the player. You're not knocking, but just there, you get environments that you get situations and chemistry and all that. I mean, perfect example. We were just talking about the trade. Pierre just brought up. Look at Huberdeau.
Yeah.
It's just a completely different guy when he left Florida. You know, it's just
because there's no Sasha Barkov in Calgary. And
exactly.
Nazem Kadri's a nice player, but he's not Sasha Barkov.
Exactly. So there you go.
But really, guys, I mean, even that, I mean, you could have expected you know, his production to go down, but the biggest fall off in NHL history,
I know,
in terms of points, like I don't have it in front of me, but was it not like 60 something?
Yeah,
60 something points.
I think it was 61, Mike. I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure you're right around
that's
there.
Incredible. You know, and then you know, a guy like that, and every time I've talked to Huberdeau, I mean, he's one of the nicest guys around, but he's the type of guy where you can see his confidence siphon away. And this game, there's so much of this game that is all about confidence. And you know, that was one trait. But then again, like, who thought did Mackenzie Weegar end up leading the defense and all defensemen in goals this year? He came close, did he not?
He was up near the top. I don't know if he was a leading goal scorer or not. He was a good part of that deal, and he's always been a good player, Mackenzie, especially when you consider how deep he was taken in the draft.
Yeah.
But he's always been a good player. Mike, this has been awesome. We just hope
Mike, we appreciate it.
Palahu, Mike.
Hey, thank you. You know what? I'll say hi to each and every one of the 300 residents there. We're all of a sudden, like I said, in the middle of oil country or Toronto Maple Leaf fans. But listen, and Murph, I know you've got some new endeavor coming up, so I'm very much looking forward to it. But you know, more than colleagues, you guys have been friends, good friends of mine for a long time. I appreciate the support. And the next time I'm on, I promise I'll beautify my ugly mug for you and come on. So call anytime.
All right, Mike. Hey, Mike, don't worry. You can pull over. I'll drive. Don't worry.
Yeah. You can explain that. You can explain that. Hey, before we go, real quick story.
Yeah.
A few years ago, Pierre, we're in, and I know this will come as a shock to you. We're in Hurley's. It was a Boston-Montreal playoff series. Way, way too late. Okay, myself and Sean Rourke, and we're in the other room, and I hear the manager, our buddy at Hurley's,
Rod Appleby.
in the other room, Rod, going like, Murph, you got the best accent I've ever heard. It's 5 a.m., Pierre. And I just yelled, since when does slurring constitute an accent? Okay.
That's good.
Anyways, guys, listen, you guys take care. I hope to join you soon. And all the best to you and your families. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks,
you too.
Michael.
Stay healthy, buddy.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. Mike Zeisberger joining us here on the eye test. He's a character.
I've known him a long time, long time. Really tall.
Yeah.
Really.
When he's in the room, you know he's in the room.
Yeah, he's in the room. He's really passionate about hockey, all sports, but hockey in particular. We just had some really cool conversations. But what I really admire is he's so nice to people that NHL coaches actually acknowledge him when he asks questions, because he's not going to destroy anybody. He's going to ask firm but fair questions. That's all you can ask.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask for, I should say.
Yeah.
And that's what he does.
Done a great job.
He does a really good job. He does a very good job.
We mentioned, I think we were mentioning, Scott Burnside got the Elmer Ferguson Award for the Hall of Fame. That's given to writers each year. And then the Broadcasting Award went to Pierre Hood. So congratulations to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, Mike deserves some kind of award like that someday. He does. He should be recognized because he's done a lot for the hockey community. And that's why so many reached out to him and so many people, were really pulling for him and worried about him, was because he's adored across our league and in the media scene. So thanks to Mike Zeisberger for joining us. All right, let's get to questions here on a Friday, Pierre. Let me pull up our sponsor here first before we do that. TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics, from around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. All right, what do we have for questions here on a Friday? F4 question: are the NHLPA staff and their management salaries paid by the players, by the National Hockey League, or the team owners? Team owners, right?
For the NHL, no, National Hockey League Players Association. That's what he had.
Wait, put the question up again. Oh, yeah, NHLPA staff and management.
By the players.
By the players, yep. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, saw a stat on Sportsnet. Edmonton has killed 23 straight power plays. Unreal. Why can't they play 5-on-5 D like that? This takes me back to the Bruins Cup run in 2011, and I remember Claude Julien saying, because the Bruins were going through a similar thing in one series. I want to say it might have been the Montreal series in the first round. And he said, I need to brainwash them to think they're on the penalty kill all the time. That's what I need to do. Like, somehow just get it in their mind so they play this way, because they were doing the same thing. But yeah, it's been unreal what they're doing on the PK here.
I have the video evidence. I wish I could show it on TV here with us. Their star players puck watch. They don't search out their area. They puck watch. They're always poaching, trying to create offense, not play defense. It's a fundamental flaw they've had for a long time with their star players there, and it's really hard to get that out of their stars. This is the difference. I will tell you right now, Paul Coffey was on our teams in Pittsburgh, not both cup teams, but the one cup team, 91. And our star players bought in because one guy said, if you want to win, this is what you got to do. And it was Brian Trottier. So all the stars gravitated to Brian. They listened to Brian, and everybody started competing defensively. And until you get that, it'll never be the same. So most of those guys killing penalties there, they're not star players. They're the role players. They're the depth players.
You know
They're
who
not looking for offense.
Yep.
Even
You know
though they got a shorthanded goal the other day from Matthias Janmark. I get it.
Yep.
No, their star players need to be held accountable defensively.
So, as you're saying that, Pierre, you know, it's going through my head. Stevie Yzerman and Scotty Bowman, and what Scotty Bowman did for him to turn his game around in Detroit there. Because a lot of people don't realize, I think, Pierre, how much of an offensive player Stevie Y was before he became this great two-way leader. And I just, that to me is one of the best coaching jobs I've ever seen. And of course, it comes from Scotty.
That, and they scared the heck out of him when they leaked that they were going to trade him to Ottawa.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Good. That's definitely it right there. All right. Next question. What do we got, guys? All right. Magnus the Sheltie. Question. Can the Rangers recover and beat Florida? Yeah, I think they can. Will they? I don't think so, but anything's possible. We'll see.
I think it's going to be really tough.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very, I don't think the Rangers are 100%. If they pull this off, I'll tip my hat to them unbelievably. Yeah. But I think that this is a grinding, grueling series. And I think they're on the receiving end more than on the giving end. I think that's been a bit of a problem for them.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question. Samuel Mattei, do you guys think it will be difficult for Berube to shift the mindset in Toronto? In my opinion, he is a coach that you'd run through a brick wall for. How do you envision the adjustment to his style?
You want to go first?
No, you go.
So here's what I believe will happen. Somebody will foul up. He'll hold them accountable. He'll use them as an example. He'll meet with everybody this summer. He'll say exactly what his expectations are for each player and what his expectations are for the room, how they're going to train. And once one guy complains or doesn't, participate the way he wants, he'll be held accountable. It'll get messy for a couple days in the media. But to me, the biggest thing he brings is he will be consistent. Mm-hmm. Here's the difference. When you do that with a team, you better have the backing of upper management and of ownership. Now, if he signed to a significant contract, he's not going anywhere for a while. So he knows he's got some time here. He'll utilize his time correctly because, and Mike made a really good point, Toronto's not a place for first-timers in terms of GM or head coach. Mm-hmm. It's not. Montreal's not.
Yep.
It's hard. Kent Hughes is good, but what makes him better is Jeff Gorton. Mm-hmm. Marty St. Louis is good, but what makes him better is he's from Laval, Quebec. He's a francophone, and he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame as a player. Mm-hmm. But if he didn't have any of those intangibles and he just went in as a first-time coach, wouldn't work. Yeah. So it's hard to do it in those markets. It's really hard to do that. He'll be able to, and he'll be endorsed by the GM because the GM hired him. The GM fired Sheldon Keefe, even though he inherited him. He fired him, and then he brings in his own guy. So he'll have a little bit more time.
One thing quickly I want to point out before we move to the next question, too, Pierre, is Mike was talking about that, and, he needs to see more anger. What popped up my head, if you remember, I forget what game it was, but it went viral. Do you remember when, Marner and Matthews, and it was somebody else, was it Nylander, were having
on the bench? Yeah, that was early on in the series against Boston.
But see,
in Toronto.
Yeah. But you wonder, like, did that anger carry into their game enough? And maybe that's what Mike's trying to say. And, do they have the guys that can channel that anger or frustration the right way and make themselves tougher to play against? There could be a time, I think, Pierre, and you just said it. Obviously, the coach knows he's staying. But I would imagine there's going to be an instance, maybe early in the season, maybe mid-season, where he goes to Brad Treliving and says, I just don't think this guy, he's got all the skill in the world. And I'm not naming guys. I'm just saying an example, any player. And he says, I don't think this guy can do what I need to be done for this team to be successful. And he's gone.
Yeah, I agree with that. So here's another thing. I'll just build off the point you said. What we saw from those Toronto players wasn't anger. No, it wasn't anger.
Yeah.
It was one guy trying to humiliate another guy. There's a difference. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference. And I'll tell you what anger is. In an off-day practice in the Stanley Cup final, 2 players in a stick swinging fight from the same team. That's anger.
Mhm.
And then players saying to myself and Barry Smith, "Are you going to break that up?" I'm like, "Not a chance.
Not a chance.
You
That's
go
what I
do it.
want.
Not doing it." Well, it's not what you want, but when guys are swinging sticks, it's a little different when they're 6'4" and 6'5".
Yeah.
That's anger. You
Yeah.
know, I don't think Toronto has people that do that.
Yeah. That's the problem. So, I mean, you can bring in the toughest coach in the world. It's not going to matter if you don't have the right players for him.
Until they change some of the roster, I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, is there a better way to handle the puck direction rule? I mean, a player directs a puck into the net without his stick.
Well, you can still direct the puck in with your foot as long as you don't make a direct kicking motion. The kicking motion is there for one reason only, player safety. And it started all the way back when goalies didn't wear facial protection. That's why they did it.
Okay.
And the equipment wasn't nearly as good. You know, I've done a lot of talking with a lot of older officials over time. One of them, my old friend Wally Harris, just passed away. And Wally would tell me, you know, the history of why this rule was implemented. And one of them is the kicking motion, and that was to protect goalies. And so they don't want to have a free-for-all. They still don't want to have a free-for-all, even though guys are better protected today. You know, how many times have we seen Erik Karlsson's career has never been the same since he got cut by Matt Cook's skate. He's been great, don't get me wrong. But I can tell you right now, I remember when he was a step and a half faster. He was quick. You know, so he's not nearly as quick anymore. And so, you know, skates cut. We see lots of guys every year get cut either on the wrist or on the heel or on the Achilles, and it's a problem. So that's why the kicking thing is in there.
All right, next question. BL, best team left and who is favorite at this point for Conn Smythe? I'd say Florida's the best team left. And for the Conn Smythe, I would say either Barkov or Bennett would be my pick.
I'm going to say Florida's the best team left. And I'm going to say Barkov.
All right. There we go. All right. Next question. Matthew Gervais. I know off topic, but with Montreal's abundance of defensemen, who do you think Montreal would be shopping? Who do you guys think makes that final 6-7 on opening day? Love the show, guys. Thank you, Matthew.
Matthew, merci beaucoup. Thanks a lot. I do agree with you, by the way. We've talked about it a lot on the eye test in terms of moving defensemen. I think that's the strength the Canadians have right now. So I could see, you know, one, maybe two, or maybe one defenseman and a draft pick moved. In terms of what they're targeting, I think they're probably targeting bigger scoring type forwards, pure scorers, not just guys that are going up and down their wing pounding guys. They need guys that can finish. And so I don't know which defenseman they would use. Here's who I don't think they're trading Matheson. I don't think they're trading Gooley. I don't think they're trading Lane Hudson. You know, there's certain guys they're not trading away. Logan Mailloux, I don't think they're trading him. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I do think with the abundance of defense they have, they're in a very good position.
All right. And by the way, Mike Zeisberger just sent a nice note to us on Twitter thanking us. Thank you to you, Mike. We really had a great time with you on. All right, next question.
Is he driving that maniac and he's sending stuff on Twitter? I'm going to call him afterwards.
He might have pulled over and got some gas or something. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
John Smith, aloha. Do you think the NHL will eventually come back with some sort of live draft event somewhere down the road? It's such a big event in other sports. Great weekend, guys.
Man, what a good question, John.
I wish. I can't believe that this is it. You know, this is really painful.
This is heartbreaking, honestly.
Yeah, it's a great event.
Well, tell the owners they don't want to spend any money. I get it. The margins are lean, and they're getting leaner all the time.
I know.
And you know, Jimmy, you know how much those American TV networks have paid for the rights. Are they going to be able to do that again, Jimmy?
I don't think so.
I
would say, Pierre.
How about the regional right, Jimmy? How about the regional rights? They don't even have any. Some of these.
Yeah.
There are 12 teams that don't have regional rights right now.
Yeah. By the way, remember we had my good friend Dave Gosher, play-by-play guy for Vegas Golden Knights. He teams up with Shane Knighty.
Yep.
So word on the street right now is that they both have interviewed with Nesson to potentially come and do the Bruins games. And I read this story, Pierre, where I didn't even realize that Vegas is one of those teams that doesn't have a place to broadcast games right now.
This is what I'm trying to tell you.
And you know what this story said too, and I agree with them? A lot of people feel within 3 to 5 years, the majority of NHL teams will be streaming it through their site for their games, and that'll be it. And they'll just charge a subscription, and that's it. So,
well,
I don't like the way this is going, Pierre. I'll tell you that.
The technology is so good right now that I don't think that will affect how people see the game. You're going to have to pay, but you have to pay for ESPN anyways. You got to pay for ESPN anyways. So, still paying. What I'm saying is over the air. I don't think they're getting that kind of money again for over the air. When I see NBC pay $2.5 billion for the NBA, I know why they don't ever take rights to anything unless they're making money. I worked there for 16 years.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason why they bought the Olympics for as many years as they did. They know the numbers and they know the people they can sell revenue advertising to and the revenues they can generate. They bought the Indy car racing for the Indianapolis 500 when everybody says, you guys are nuts. That's never going to work. They just had the largest ratings for the Indianapolis 500 ever with a rain delay. They're not dumb people. Like I said, I'm telling you, I worked there for 16 years. They wanted to keep the NHL. They didn't want to give the NHL the price that the NHL needed coming out of COVID. That's the reality. So I don't know, what's going to happen with this next agreement on TV. That's the biggest thing because the NHL product's so good, Jimmy. It's so good.
I know.
But there's so many dead spots around the country that don't watch it.
Yeah. That's the elephant in the room right now for sure. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, whose idea is it to not hold drafts in person? I think NHL is making a big mistake on this. I don't like it. Pierre just said the owners.
No, well,
Board of Governors.
Board of Governors are a big part of it. Ownership is part of it. And people are going to point their finger at Gary Bettman. They're wrong to do that. This is an idea that I think comes out of the Board of Governors. And it's usually presented to the Board of Governors and the ownership group by people that are working in hockey operations. They get asked the question, how much does it cost for us to send our group to the draft? How much would it cost if we just did it the way the NFL does it?
Yeah.
Which is they don't send anybody. The only people that are at the NFL drafts are the players.
Are the players getting drafted?
Are the players. And it's only the first couple rounds. And you got to be invited to that.
Yep.
So nobody's left sitting there for the whole time and never gets drafted.
Right.
You got to be invited. They know.
Wow. We'll see what happens. All right, next question. Sammy Matei, you guys are spot on. I went to 25 plus games at the Bell Center this year in Florida. Was the one team where I walked out of the rink saying, wow, that team is built differently. Good call, Sammy. Yeah.
Every time Sammy sends a note in, it's always legit. Like he must watch a ton of games because he's spot on with his takes. And Florida, again, going back 3.5 months ago, well, more than that now, 5 months ago, telling Melnick, I'm just telling you.
I remember.
This team is vicious. They're old school. They're back to when I was coaching or even back in the 80s. They're old school and they're mean. Nothing wrong with that. That's good. No, that's a compliment.
Yeah, that's what you need in the playoffs. All right, next question. Steve Rosen, is Brady Skay a top pair defenseman in your opinion? No.
He's a 4-5.
He's a 4-5.
He's not a 3. He's not a 1. He's not a 2. He's a 4-5, but he's a really good 4-5 because he's got really good size. He can really skate, and he's an outstanding teammate. He's an outstanding teammate. I've been watching this guy for a long time.
I know. I remember when he came into the league. I remember you talking about him.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of him as a person, and his size and his skating are elite. So I don't think he processes it well enough to be a top 3, but from 4 to 6, he's more than adequate and better than adequate.
And he could be hitting the market. We will see.
Yes.
All right. Next question. Magnus the Sheltie. Man, what constitutes a charging penalty in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Good question, Magnus.
Very good question. I don't know the answer. There are 2 things that have become epidemic. One is cross-checking, Jimmy. Cross-checking is becoming an epidemic in the league, and the other one is what the Sheltie just said, Magnus the Sheltie. Charging.
Yeah.
Charging is becoming – and late. Well, most of the time when a guy gets it late, it's because the guy coming to hit him was charging him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. And they got to figure that out. because they get on the grand stage in a week or so. You don't want a serious injury. All right, next question. Alex Evanowski, is there a story as old as time in the NHL as a star offensive player who was reluctant to play defense, but later on in his career accepts it and wins because of it? Seen it happen plenty of times, Pierre. Did you have a player like that in Pittsburgh?
Oh, yeah. When we went there, everybody thought, Badger Bob was just going to preach offense. Well, what he preached is power play, structure in practice, and structure in terms of how the game is played.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, we were in one meeting at the old Vista Hotel in Pittsburgh having a breakfast meeting. Rick Patterson, Rick Kehoe, Barry Smith, Bob Johnson, Scotty Bowman, and myself. We're just all in this breakfast room, private. And Badger goes, we can't play the way I want to play with this guy, and this guy. And 2 days later, or 3 days later, Craig Patrick, this guy, and this guy were gone. And we had, And then all of a sudden, the team just started to surge.
Interesting. Yeah, he was a great coach, Pierre. You're lucky to work with him, huh?
Wow, he was just an amazing man, and he was a great coach. Amazing man.
Yeah. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, what is your worst trade that one team has done? Where were you wondering what the coach was thinking?
Oh, I have one.
I've got one.
Go ahead. You go first.
Joe Thornton.
Yeah, but they got back tangible NHL players. I mean, Brad Stern was a tangible NHL player. Wayne Primo was tangible. Marco Sturm was a good player.
Oh, Marco Sturm was a great player for the Bruins.
Those two guys were good. They were good. They were none of them. But I agree. I told you the story, what I said to one of my on-air partners. I told you. He thought the trade was great for Boston. I go, no, it's not. It's good for San Jose. But here, this is.
All right, you go.
Okay. Back in 1991, the Pittsburgh Penguins drafted Marcus Naslund, okay? The people that were involved in drafting him, Scotty Bowman, myself, Barry Smith, everybody kind of moved on. Eventually, Greg Malone, who was the chief scout at the time, everybody moved on to different teams. Scotty and Barry went to Detroit. I left for Hartford. Bugsy, I think, went down to Tampa. Nobody knew the kid, Naslund. They knew him as a player, but they didn't really know him like we knew him. And for whatever reason, they just didn't think he was doing well in training camp. And you can go look it up. They traded him 1-for-1 for Alex Stoyanov. They did. No, they did.
Wow.
That was 1-for-1.
I never realized that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you'll see when you go look it up and go compare Naslund's stats to Stoyanov. And look, Stoyanov was a really tough kid. He played in the Ontario Hockey League. He was a heavily recruited candidate to play college hockey, but he ended up going playing major junior. But when you look at it, I mean, that's one of the most one-sided trades, I think, ever in NHL history.
Yeah, there it is. Wow, Pierre. That's unreal. It's unreal. Yeah, there's been some other ones out there. I mean, I'm actually, when I Googled it, this old story from 2012 on Sportsnet came up. Top 10 most regrettable trades. One of them in there, too, I forgot about. What about Brett Hull to the Blues, Pierre?
Brett Hull to the Blue.
But they got Rob Ramage and Rick Watson. They got bodies.
There were players that went back to Calgary. Yeah. They weren't Brett Hull, but there were good players that went to Calgary in that deal. Yeah. What are some of the other trades they had in there?
But now remember, this is dated in 2012, so nothing since then is in here. Dallas sends James Neal to Pittsburgh. I don't think so, though. They got Golubowski. I mean,
I don't know about that one because James, I think, wasn't Matty Niskanen in that trade too?
Yes, Matty Niskanen went to Pittsburgh. It was Neal and
Niskanen and James Neal went to Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah,
that's
in exchange for Golubowski.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I asked. I knew right away. It wasn't just.
I mean, a lot of these trades just do have.
They're okay.
How about when Brian Campbell went from the Buffalo Sabres to the San Jose Sharks? And let's see.
Oh, you know what that one was? I'll tell you what that was. Dougie Wilson was running San Jose, and Brian Campbell played for the Ottawa 67s. And, they had an unbelievable Brian Kilray was kind of an advisor.
I'm reading this as you're saying it, too.
Oh, yeah. Brian Kilray was kind of an advisor to Dougie Wilson because he played for him in Ottawa. So that's how that deal went down. Yeah. And Soupy, that was his nickname. Brian was a good player.
So it was Steve Bernier. Steve Bernier went to Buffalo with the first round.
Steve Bernier was drafted by San Jose, and that was the 2003 draft, I want to say.
I was going to say that.
By New Jersey. Was he drafted by New Jersey, or was he drafted by Jersey?
Yep. Yeah, interesting. All right, next question. State of survival. What was going through your head in the 2015 draft when the Bruins made those 3 first-round picks in a row? Soon after that, it was Barzal, Connor, Besser. That was a bit of a miss.
No, you're missing the biggest one of all. Thomas Chabot was partners with Jacob Zaboral, who the Bruins took as their first-rounder in that draft. Zaboral and Chabot were partners in St. John's.
Mm-hmm. So, this is like Don Sweeney's never going to hear the end of that here in Boston. I mean, they always bring it up to him. And it's like he's done a lot of good stuff since. So I'm kind of like, all right, we're beating a dead horse. But, Pierre, you know what? I'm glad this question got brought up. That is going to get brought up so much in a month when Jake DeBrusk likely leaves via free agency. And there is nobody left from those 3 that he took in the first round.
No, but you got to be fair. You got to look at the whole body of work.
Oh, I'm just telling you what I think the people will do. I don't agree with you,
but I'm just saying Donnie's done some really good.
He's done some great.
Before he was the manager, there were a lot of guys that ended up in Boston because of Donnie. And he did some really, like people want to give Torrey Krug a hard time. Torrey Krug was a hell of a player. He was a great signing out of Michigan State. Matty Grzelcyk was a steal. I mean, for where they got him and the amount of games he's played in the league, it's phenomenal with Donnie. Donnie did a lot of really good stuff.
And Pierre, I think even in that draft after the first round, who was it that he took? I think Brandon Carlo in the second round.
He was a second-round pick, exactly.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like they did get a good player out of that, and he's had some other great drafts. I mean, 2016, he got McAvoy, Frederick, and Ryan Lindgren. Now I'm sure he wishes he didn't trade him, but McAvoy, Frederick, and Lindgren.
That's what I'm saying.
First 2 rounds.
People are gonna, throw stuff at him, but I've had this. I know I called you up once. I said, "Why is everybody going after Donnie? This is crazy. He's done a lot of really good work there. Just be fair. Just be fair about it."
Yeah, but that was a regrettable draft. Anyone will admit it. So, all right, next question. Brett Favre, like there's something about Mary. When he said, wondering how much say Berube will have in the draft to get his kind of player.
I don't think they'll give him much leeway in the draft just because he doesn't know any of the players. Yeah. Where he will have leeway will be free agency in the trade market. In terms of the draft, he won't have any. He won't even know any of the players. He'll even say, he'll admit it. I don't know who this guy is.
So, Pierre, let me ask you this. I know they get scouts, everything together too. You would think he's going to make a point to meet with the pro scouts that have been doing their work already, even before he got here, to kind of see where they match up, right? Would that happen, that meeting? Yeah.
I'm sure they already had that.
Probably already had it, yeah.
One of the best things about, the COVID thing, Zoom. Zoom created all this stuff where you can have these, meetings. And Craig probably, as soon as he got hired, probably set up Zooms with all the scouts, especially the pro guys. Yep. And he wouldn't – this is one thing. Coaches need to stay in their lane. He doesn't know any of those players, the amateur guys. Right. That's Trey Living's job, and that's director of amateur scouting, John Lilly, and all these other – that's their job. That's what they have to do.
All right.
That's a hard job, boy. The amateur scouting, people don't realize that's a hard job.
Yeah. Really hard. You talk about staying in some interesting hotels and long rides. All right, next question.
Maybe I should write a book about that.
I told you, I'm ready to write whenever you want, Pierre. 4F question. What does it cost to send 20 guys on a team from Toronto to Vegas for the draft weekend? It's a good question. Trying to figure out why they want to cut costs on this.
It's more than 20. I'll just tell you this right now, just so you know.
Yeah, most teams are carrying about 30.
There's one team in the league that's got 60 support staff.
Wow.
In scouting. And I'm not going to say who it is.
Wow.
And there's another one that's about 45. So just so people understand, under the guise of night, a lot of these teams' budgets have just exploded because of different ways that players are rated, if you follow me.
Yes.
I'm not going to say more than that.
All right. I got you. I just hope our listeners do. All right. Next question. Magnus the Sheltie. What do you think Elias Lindholm will make on free agency?
6 to 7 million a year. 6 to 7 million a year.
There you go. All right. Next question. Chris Blue Shirts. Hey guys, great show. Chris, I hope your guys come back and force a 7. I'm convinced that Panarin has a broken hand. Nonetheless, Rangers and Panthers both have had amazing season. Let's buckle up for a great game 6 and hopefully game 7. Let's go Rangers.
Chris is really
Panarin's
good.
Another guy that we weren't talking about that could be hurt.
Yeah, well, I think we said it earlier, but anyways,
Okay.
He's right. I think there's something wrong with Panarin.
Yeah.
Said that. Tough.
Yeah.
It's not I never use the term war when I'm talking about hockey, out of respect to all the military people, but it is a battle of attrition. Playoffs are a battle of attrition.
That's the best way to say it for
Yeah,
sure. All right.
really
Next question. Alex Ivanowski. I was just thinking about this the other day randomly. I would love to see Tortorella get another chance with a real cup contender. He always took over rebuilds, Canucks aside.
Well said, Alex.
Well said.
Well, really well said. Agreed. Now, I don't think when he went to New York, it was a total rebuild. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say that, when he went to Arizona, it was. I mean, they were kind of in a messy situation. But no, I think there's a lot of merit to what he just said. I think there's a lot of merit.
All right. Next question. Mike Gravel. I want Sean Monahan back with the Habs. We'll see.
I mean, what Mike's saying is not wrong.
I thought he was a good fit. I think he was a good fit
for them.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. But
Depends
here's my one question about it. Let's just say he goes back and Kirby Doc's back. There are other guys that, you play Jake in the 4-hole, Jake Evans in the 4-hole. But then what do you do with some of the other guys that might be centermen?
Yeah.
I just don't know. I probably he won't be going back there.
Yeah.
And I could see how it would fit. I think it's a good point.
I don't think like Pierre's absolutely right. I don't think it's a matter of whether they don't like his game. They definitely like it. I think it's just where he fits right now with where the team's going. So, all right, next question. Ron LaRoe. Pierre, people in Saskatoon, where I'm from, want an AHL team. Logistics probably say we're in a bad location for NHL clubs, right?
Not if you were Edmonton, Calgary, or Winnipeg. I know Winnipeg's team is in Winnipeg right now, and not if you were in Vancouver, it wouldn't be. They're in Abbotsford, though, so it's a little bit closer. But no, I don't think it's bad. Hey, what about – Minnesota's in Iowa. I don't think it's happening because you have to cross the border. But for Edmonton or Calgary, I know Calgary's in Calgary, but I don't see that being – my thing, when those happen, I'm a big believer in protecting the territorial rights of the major junior team.
Mm-hmm.
And I just would never want to see the Saskatoon Blades get hurt. I wouldn't want to see the Prince Albert Raiders get hurt. I wouldn't want to see the Regina Pats get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent, I'm telling you, hundreds of days scouting in the Saskatchewan Junior League, whether I was in Yorkton or whether I was in North Battleford or whether I was in Melfort or whether I was in, down in Wilcox. It didn't, I'm telling you, hundreds of days over the course of my career there. And I wouldn't want to see those teams get hurt by an American League team going in there. So do I think it would work? Yeah, because Saskatoon's a burgeoning city, but I wouldn't want to see those junior teams get hurt.
What if they just put it a little south of Saskatoon? All right, next question.
That'd be good for a Slapshot.
All these Slapshot references this week. Ryan B., what do you think Carolina would be looking for in a trade for Montreal for Natchez? Well, I saw somebody down there say Wi-Fi. Why not ask for him? I don't know. I mean, Carolina could definitely use defensemen, Pierre, because they're probably going to lose some guys to free agents.
Well, they're losing Pesce. Pesce's going to be
Pesce's
going to be out.
Maybe Brady too.
Brady shit. So here's the one though. You look at it. There was a little winger that came down there from Pittsburgh. He's a free agent too.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up with Brady Shea. They're really tight.
Oh.
Jake Gensel's a guy, by the way. I'm being smart.
Interesting.
So, if you're now, I don't know who's going to be the GM there. No
Mhm.
idea. But you would hope that whomever the new GM is has done his research and knows these guys are buddies, and maybe we can get a tag team going here, and it's cheaper to keep both.
Yep.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens. That's a great point, though, Pierre. But that happens too. Like we've seen that for sure, where teams utilize that. I mean, that's what a good GM does.
Way more than you think.
Yep. All right. Next question. We done? I think we might be done.
A little overtime today. You played overtime today, Jimmy.
We got Mike Zeisberger on. He was great. Well, good thing. We got one more there. I see. Magnus to Shelty. We'll just do that, and that will be it.
For sure.
Here we go. Who was your favorite hockey player growing up, Pierre and Jimmy? Growing up for me was Cam Neely. I got like three-way tie. Cam Neely, Ray Bourque, and Steve Yzerman.
I had John Beliveau.
I knew Pierce would be a little better.
Larry Robinson. And I'm going Boston. Robert Gordon Orr.
There you go.
Those were my three favorites growing up.
Did you see Bobby Orr play, Pierre?
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. And the coolest thing was when I got to be friends with him and spend time with him at his golf event in the summers up in Perry Sound, and spend time with him down in Florida and Jupiter, and go out for dinner with him in a lot of different places at the World Junior. Yeah. Just what an awesome human. Bobby's amazing. But he was such a good player. He was the only, I can say this with a clear conscience. When I was a kid growing up in Montreal, he's the only player I ever cheered for that didn't wear a Montreal Canadiens sweater. I never cheered for any player that didn't wear a Canadian sweater, except for him.
Yeah.
Except for him.
And you know what? Pierre? I mean, you would know better than me, but I was always told when I was up in Montreal, because I remember when I moved up there and I'm like, there's a lot of Bruins fans here. I don't get this. And the answer was always, well, Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr made Bruins fans up here. We had
a really close family friend who was a very successful man in Montreal business community, and he would go to more Bruins games than Canadiens games, and he would tell all his friends, "I'm going to Boston to watch it because I hate the Canadiens." And I'm like, I was a little kid, I was maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, and he's an adult. I'm going, "What's he doing? Like, how could you say that?" Montreal was winning all these Stanley Cups all the time. Oh.
They always say, can you imagine him now in this game with the way the rules are?
He's one of the few players from that era. Yvon Cournoy is another one. Larry Robinson would be another one. There are a bunch, but most of them would have had to change their training to be able to play in this league without the red line. Bobby Orr would never have had to change anything.
No.
Larry would never have had to change anything. There's some guy, Brad Park, I don't think would have had it. That was a great get when you had Brad Park on.
Yeah, that was fun.
Brad Park was such a good first passer, tape to tape.
Yeah.
Get it and move it. Get it. He was so good at it. There are a bunch of guys that would have, but not as many. They would have had to change their training.
Yeah. I always say, Pierre, if Brad came into the league maybe 10 years earlier, 10 years later, a lot more people would understand how amazing he was. But there was just so many good defensemen with him. I mean, Bobby Orr
it was a different game. The red line changed a lot of that just because you couldn't pass the puck from your side of the blue line to the other side of the red line. It changed a lot of the dynamics.
Definitely. All right. Well, we want to thank Mike Zeisberger for joining us here on the Eye Test. Always a pleasure to talk to him, and hope our listeners and viewers enjoy it. And speaking of, thank you to you and for your questions. We appreciate your support, and thank you to our production crew in Montreal. And Pierre, I wanted to mention too, I didn't mention earlier, I'm actually announced today that I am no longer with Boston Hockey Now, doing the Bruins beat there. So I want to offer gratitude to them for the chance they gave me in the last 5 years I spent with them. Was a pleasure working with you. But bigger things are coming, and I'm really excited about the future of this podcast, Pierre. We've got a lot of good things going on.
You did a hell of a job with the Eye Test. I know that. So it's just onward and upward from here. I want to say hi to Rosa and Tony Granato. We're thinking about
it.
All right.
Here we go. And on that note, this has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.